sun.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Listen to Pavarotti. Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And you know, of course, I'm in Candyland right now because of all the new things that are coming out. I also had Heather Black, one of my folks, send me schematics of all of the Queen Road apartments, Linda Lane apartments, and even histories of who lived there. So thank you, Heather. I'm deep diving all of that. It's very helpful. Thank you, everybody out there that supports me. And one thing that I've got to point out in this video is how wrong I was on a particular subject, because now that we've got some additional video that's been released, specifically the one I've always wanted to see, two of the ones I've always wanted to see actually, and that's Paradise and Ridge. Some things have become very apparent. And, you know, I think where I get off in this thing, and I remember back to what I was focused on when I ventured over and started staring at other people's work, like on the green Elantra. And I went from exactly what I was focused on, which was the Eugene, Oregon Elantra, and went, well, this is irrefutable. I'm going to have to jump on it. The green Elantra is the most amazing, you know, piece of detective work I'd ever seen. Had me believe in it. And I should have known that once somebody sent the green Elantra information to the defense and nothing ever came of it, that it was incorrect. But I mean, it just seemed so compelling. And it was all done from, you know, a still photograph. So, I mean, I think it was still some excellent work from a still photograph, but who would have known that the camera footage that they actually had was so clear? I mean, why would they even put on that still photograph when they had all this amazing footage? So it tells me that where I mess up in this thing is almost always when I start staring at other people's work and it looks convincing and then it convinces me. I'm going to quit looking at other people's work. I'm just going to focus on what I'm doing and what I'm looking at, because I think that's what keeps me the closest to the truth. And I know, because I watched another video that was done about the rear lights of the vehicle that's passing the neighborhood that I know is the undercover police car from their police records. I mean, they clearly state it. So, but I was looking at how they were comparing the rear lights and how the stock Ford Fusion has a upper rear brake light in its vehicle, and if we were looking at a stock Ford Fusion, it'd be very compelling. But when you do some research into those Ford Fusions that they use as undercover vehicles, you'll see that they made modifications to all those vehicles. One of the modifications were the rear brake light in the window. They removed the guts from it and in some cases replaced it with emergency lights when needed that would only come on when you flashed your emergencies. So comparing stock vehicles to undercover police vehicles is a waste of time. But anyway, it's going to bring me to my final point on this. And, you know, with all this stuff that's going out, I've been kind of holding it to myself and doing my own investigation, then letting y'all in on things. I think I'm going to start letting you in on things a little bit more as I'm going through it like I used to, because I think that's the best format to do it than me just locking myself in a room for, you know, a week and staring at stuff. Making the videos is actually what helps me to get to the truth the best, I think. So I'll continue to bring you these little updates, but diving in to a key aspect of what was released in these videos, specifically the Ridge Road video, I believe now that we can actually prove that the FBI was correct in their determination of what they identified that vehicle as all the way back in 2022, before an arrest warrant was ever issued for Brian Kohberger, before they ever got video footage from WSU showing Brian Kohberger's actual car. What they originally identified this vehicle as was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, and they were correct And I think we can prove it in this video that they were absolutely correct now that we have the actual video of Ridge Road. Now, one thing is for certain, if you look at all those videos that came out that they released to these special people yesterday, explain that one to me. You go through those videos and they'll show you paradise, it'll show you ridge, it'll show you all of those things. One thing it doesn't show you though is the paradise drive footage after 401 when that vehicle supposedly continued to make the loop. That's not in there. That's what the defense was saying over and over, is there is no video of the vehicle after the 401 shot at Ridge Road, had to get all the way back around. Still curious to me until they release that video. I don't believe we'll know anything for sure. But the other thing I find interesting is, I've been working for the last week and a half to 2 weeks on the video that I put out yesterday for everybody. And my members know that I've put out, that was the third or fourth version of that video before I completed it. So I've had that information out now for a while. And I noticed that my member count went up significantly. And I know I got some haters in my member count because now I've never had a thumbs down on a member video up until the last couple of weeks. And I'm getting thumbs downs on every one from at least one person. So I know I've got a hater in my member count. And so I know that people have known about this information that I put out yesterday for just a minute. And it's very, very curious to me that when I finally put that video out to the public and I start showing you about Lewiston, Clarkston, Genesee, and what law enforcement was obviously trying to do with Brian Kohberger, the same day I put it out, the exact same day after 3 years, the same day I put it out, they release all the video footage of Kohberger at the grocery stores in Lewiston and Clarkston. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. Man, there sure are a lot of coincidences here lately, though. But right now, let's go ahead and prove that the vehicle that's seen on Ridge Road is undoubtedly a 2011 to 13 Hyundai Elantra, probably a 13, probably that one found in Eugene, Oregon, my humble opinion. Okay, so Plunder got this video. Thank you for putting it out, Plunder. This is Ridge Road. This is the one that they got those pictures that we all dove into, and a lot of us thought it was a green Hyundai Elantra. Well, it's obviously not green, as we'll see in this video. It's very clear, and the green hues that we had seen is obviously just all the green grass around it kind of shining on that thing. But as it comes around, we'll see it here in just a second. We're going to have just enough information to be able to come to the truth on this thing. Here it is. Well, and then it went to a larger view here. Hang on, I must have cut that. So as it comes around right here, we'll see it nice and slow going. And there's going to be something very impactful on this. When you see a 2013 Hyundai Elantra, this is the rear. And as this vehicle comes around, I want you to pay attention to this traffic light and this no parking sign right here. And then we're really going to look at this thing here in just a second. Okay, so just so we're clear on where everything's at, you can see here's the King Road residence. Here's Taylor. If you go down Taylor this way, it turns into Walenta. And then when you turn on this that says Walenta, this is actually Ridge though. Ridge comes down here to Paradise right here. And then Ridge comes back up past Boyt's onto, this is Louder right here. So what you're seeing is the vehicle coming this way and turning right here. This is the area that video is taken in. So when we go down, let's see here. When we go down, we're coming in, not the way the car just came in, but we're coming in from the other way up Louder. And you'll see this not traffic light, but this street light right here, this night light. Yeah, it comes up and it curves and it's illuminating. And when you turn, you're going to see this no parking sign right here. That's where the vehicle's going in front of that you see on that footage. So when you come down here, you've got this light. And you've got this light, and that's all of your illumination in this area. And then there's the no parking sign where the camera is facing this way, going straight across. So if we're looking at it, that means the camera is likely somewhere in this area. It's aiming this way. And this would be what you would see on the other side of the car if you had a clear view. And this is 2025. Let's see what other dates we have. Oh, here's what it would look like in October. Okay. So that tree is not quite as big. I wonder where that camera is. October 2021, you would think it would be in the right spot. So it looks to me like maybe this camera is behind these trees here somehow. But there's the traffic light. And you can see the way, or the street light. Now it's aimed down. The vehicle came down this way, came this way. And this is the angle that it's looking at in the video. And this is that sign, just so everybody realizes what you're seeing. Now, this is where it gets important to understand a little bit of science so we can understand what it is we are seeing and what it is we're not seeing. And when you apply the way light reflects off of a mirror, for example, so if we have a flashlight right here and we're aiming it at a downward angle at a mirror, the light will hit the mirror and then it's going to reflect based on the angle that the light hits the mirror. So if you're aiming down to the mirror, the light is going to reflect down. It's not going to reflect directly back to you, or therefore you would not see an illuminated light aiming back to you if you shine a light at a mirror at an angle. And you can try that on your own and you'll see until you aim that light directly at the mirror to where it reflects directly back to you, you will not get blinded by that light. It'll actually project on at the angle that you're aiming at. That's key point number one, because it works different when you start talking about reflectors. Reflectors actually are full of these little prisms. See these little prisms? They're little prisms of basically like little mirrors, but they're all angled in different directions. And the reason for that is because these are designed that if light hits them at a different angle, because of all the little prisms, the light won't just reflect back if you're not at a direct angle. It will reflect light back based on the angle that is actually being hit by the light. So it basically takes a straight on angle of illumination and it expands it quite a bit. And that's important because the reason reflectors are even on cars, bicycles, the road, is because they're designed to illuminate when light hits them at a certain angle. But it is important to know that this is only going to reflect based on the angle that the light hits up to a certain point. There is an end game to it. And we all know that because we've tried to shine lights on reflectors that didn't reflect until we got at a certain angle for them to reflect. Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty now. When you look at specifically a 2013 Hyundai Elantra, what is the maximum angle the light will not reflect? For most consumer and automotive retro reflectors, like those on the 2013 Hyundai Elantra, light will be effectively reflected across a very wide range of angles, often up to approximately 60 degrees from the reflector's normal axis. This is the two things I want to point out right here. Up to 60 degrees, and here's a 60-degree angle, but it also says from the reflector's normal axis. So if the reflector is perpendicular to the ground, its normal axis is going to be perpendicular to the ground, which means if it's straight up and down, then 60 degree is going to come in at that angle, straight up and down, which would be a 90-degree angle. But with peak performance around 0 degrees, which means 0 degrees would be from A to 0 right here, just straight on. The reflection efficiency decreases as the angle of incidence becomes more oblique, and there is a point at which the reflector will cease to function effectively. So if the maximum angle is 60 degrees, it's going to cease functioning effectively somewhere in this area. Why am I going through all this? It's actually very important to understand. Because when you look at a 2013 Hyundai Elantra, we've talked about rear reflectors until we're blue in the face. But this is something that I don't think we've ever discussed. Because in the 2013 Hyundai Elantra, you can see that the rear reflectors are part of this little area right here. It's like a little conclave in the back of the vehicle. And what's interesting is you can see that the vehicle comes down in a horizontal manner, or excuse me, a perpendicular manner, and then it angles back. When it does that, and because these reflectors are inserted into the angle, it actually makes these reflectors aiming more down than it would if these reflectors were, say, up here on this flat surface where it would be aimed more directly. So, like I just discussed, the reflection efficiency decreases as the angle of the incidence becomes more oblique. There's a point at which the reflector will cease to function effectively. But peak performance is 0, head on, straight across if it's perpendicular. Considering these are actually angled down, though, its peak performance would actually be coming from an upward angle. So it's an interesting design they had on this 2013. But because these are angled down, it's going to take its normal axis, if it was perpendicular, to 60 degrees this way. Now it's going to make 60 degrees come in at a less angle. This is very important when you consider light coming from above, what point it's not going to make these reflectors illuminate. Because on the 2014 to 16 Hyundai Elantra, you can see a design modification was made, and instead of having the rear reflectors in this little cutout under portion with a downward angle, they were moved to the back portion of this bumper right here, where it's more at a perpendicular angle, which means its angle of illumination would increase to the 60-degree mark, making the 60-degree mark much higher than you've seen on that 2013. Hopefully everybody's following me at this point, because I think it's key. Because when you take into consideration the video that we just looked at and where the illumination is coming from, it's coming from that street light. The street light is illuminating everything at a downward angle. On the 2014 to 16 Hyundai Elantra, when you look at a 60-degree angle, it should illuminate 60 degrees. See, this would be my 60-degree angle right here. So it should illuminate this rear reflector quite a bit more than if that rear reflector was aiming down, like we see on the 2013. Because the downward angle of the reflector must change the axis. Well, you can see it takes a much wider angle on this light to be able to hit the 60-degree mark to illuminate these rear reflectors as it would on this particular model. Does that make sense? Now, when we look at it in real time and it's illuminating this vehicle right here at a 60-degree angle on the 2014, well, then these rear reflectors of this vehicle should be illuminated all the way from here all the way around because of its angle. But on the 2013 model, they would not be illuminated past this mark right here. This is your 60-degree mark. And because of the downward angle of those rear reflectors, you would not expect to see them illuminated like you would on the 2014. To make a long story short, you should be able to see those rear reflectors illuminated because of that traffic light as it goes past this parking sign right here, at least a car length. Where on this vehicle, you should not assume to be able to see these rear reflectors illuminate really at any point based on this traffic light because the angle's too high. The FBI was right. And when you look at this traffic light again, a 60-degree angle is going to be coming down right here. So if this was a 2014 to 16 Hyundai Elantra, like we know it's not, right here we would expect to see those rear reflectors reflecting. And not once do they ever reflect, which tells us because of the angle of the 11 to 13, the FBI was correct in their assumption that this was an 11 to 13 Hyundai Elantra. No doubt. Now, I'll go ahead and I'll put together, with all these new video clips, an actual, using my FBI report animation, I'm going to go ahead and put together everything from Indian Hills all the way through all these passes, using all the released video footage now, because I think that's the best way for us to try to get a grip on what is real and what isn't. And, but now, in the video, if you watched the entire video I did yesterday and you understood what I was saying, number one, not that everything that I put in that video is what I believe. It's what I believe the investigators truly believed in this case. Probably rather all the way up until this very day. There's no doubt when you go through the police reports and the fact that Brett Payne admits on stand that that probable cause affidavit was a living, breathing document. Well, it's not that difficult to go through and find what was in the probable cause affidavit, what was in the police reports, and start matching those things up, and you have a clear understanding of what they believed at the time. I'm not saying I believed it. I'm saying that's what I believe that they believed. So when you get to the part about Gun Rack Guy, they know Gun Rack Guy was one of the suspects in the case. That's why the police report reflects the probable cause affidavit. They firmly believe that the guy that walked to the dumpster and then walked over to the dumpster at 1112 that we haven't seen on video yet was another suspect in the case. And then they firmly believe that somebody driving a white Elantra was the guy that either went in and assisted them or just sat there until they came out and then they drove off. That's what they believed. They believed that they had identified Gun Rack Guy. They believed it was Mowich, in my humble opinion. I think we're going to see it when all the court documents are released, if they're ever released. Now we've got the most unbelievable crap I've ever seen in my life, and I don't know why the media is not jumping all over this. But now in a case where everything was sealed, and they're talking about unsealing documents, they're literally sealing the replies to what should be unsealed. They're continuing to seal the replies and the motions for unsealing documents. They're sealing those. How do you seal a motion to give your explanation of why something should be sealed or unsealed? How do you seal that when you're talking about unsealing stuff? They're sealing the motions regarding unsealing documents. Do we think we're ever going to get anything close to the truth in this case if we continue to allow them to do that? Media, where are you? How are you going to let them seal documents related to unsealing documents? I mean, I have never heard it. It's insane. It's insane. When you look at all the other cases out there that we can look at, even these major cases, they've already unsealed just about everything about the case before they even file charges. In this case, we're still sealing documents about unsealing the documents that were sealed. So how are we going to get to the truth? Because they don't want you to know the truth. Because the more you know about the truth, and if you listen to what the investigators and the prosecutors said in interviews after this thing, they've never once even come close to saying, here was our theory on this. All they've ever talked about is the bogus BS evidence that they've always talked about, which tells you that they know they're hiding so much from you. You have to ask yourself, why are they hiding all that? And when is it going to stop? It's going to stop as soon as people quit letting them do it. And that's the final point on that. But I'll put all that together so that everybody has a clear view of what they're saying happened based on the video evidence and the FBI report of movements of suspect vehicle. Because in the end, I believe that they were trying to identify the person driving suspect vehicle, and considering their other two people that they planned on bringing charges against were both no longer living, like Mowich and Kopacka, Well, they'd only left one person to prosecute, and that was the person they thought was driving the car, which they thought was Brian Koberger. I firmly believe that he was not driving the car. And I believe that the things that they thought they were going to tie Koberger to, once they arrested him and tried to do it, turned out they couldn't do it, but they went on with it anyway. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's out.